Hare Krishna. This is a reading from both the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj and Chaitanya Bhagavat by Haridas Thakur, describing the pastimes of Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. Selected purports are by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Haridas Thakur lived during the late 15th and early 16th centuries in both Bengal and Jagannath Puri, and is one of the intimate associates of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Listeners interested in other audiobooks by previous acharyas are invited to visit our website, sadhusanga.com.
The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are deeper than millions of seas and oceans. Therefore, no one can understand what he does or why he does it. I do not know the deep meaning of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. As far as possible, I shall try to explain them externally. One day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Haridas Thakur as usual, and in the course of discussion, he inquired as follows.
My dear Thakur Haridas, in this age of Kali, most people are bereft of Vedic culture, and therefore they are called Yavanas. They are concerned only with killing cows and Brahminical culture. In this way, they all engage in sinful acts. How will these Yavanas be delivered? To my great unhappiness, I do not see any way.
Haridas Thakur replied,
My dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. Do not be unhappy to see the condition of the Yavanas in material existence.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. These words of Haridas Thakur are just befitting a devotee who has dedicated his life and soul to the service of the Lord. When the Lord is unhappy because of the condition of the fallen souls, the devotee consoles him, saying, My dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. Everyone should adopt the cause of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to try to relieve him from the anxiety he feels. This is actually service to the Lord. One who tries to relieve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's anxiety for the fallen souls is certainly a most dear and confidential devotee of the Lord. Haridas Thakur continued,
Because the Yavanas are accustomed to saying, Ha Rama, O Lord Ramachandra, they will be easily delivered by this Namabhas. A devotee in advanced ecstatic love exclaims, O my Lord Ram, O my Lord Ram. But the Yavanas also chant, Ha Rama. Just see their good fortune.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If a child touches fire, the fire will burn him, and if an elderly man touches fire, it will burn him also. Haridas Thakur says that a devotee of the Lord exclaims, Ha Ram. But although Yavanas do not know the transcendental meaning of Ha Ram, they also say those words in the course of their ordinary life. For the Yavanas, the words Ha Ram mean pig or abominable, whereas the devotee exclaims the same words, Ha Ram, in ecstatic love, meaning, O my Lord Ramachandra. Nevertheless, because the words are the spiritual summum bonum, the fact is the same, whether they are uttered by Yavanas or by great devotees, just as fire is the same for both a child and an elderly man. In other words, the holy name of the Lord always acts, even when the holy name is chanted without reference to the Supreme Lord, whether one knows it or not. Namacharya Haridas Thakur The authority on the chanting of the holy name said,
The chanting of the Lord's holy name, to indicate something other than the Lord, is an instance called namabhas. Even when the holy name is chanted in this way, its transcendental power is not destroyed. Even a malecha who is being killed by the tusk of a boar, and who cries in distress again and again, Ha Rama, Ha Rama, attains liberation. What then to speak of those who chant the holy name with veneration and faith?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This refers to an instance in which a meat-eater being killed by a boar uttered the words Haram, Haram again and again at the time of his death. Since this is a quotation from the Nrsimha Purana, this indicates that in the Puranic age there must also have been malechas and yavanas, meat-eaters, and the words haram, meaning condemned, were also uttered in those days. Thus Haridas Thakur gives evidence that even a meat-eater who condemns something by uttering the words haram gets the benefit of chanting the holy name that the devotee chants to mean, O my Lord Ram. Haridas continued,
Ajamil was a great sinner during his life, but at the time of death he accidentally called for his youngest son, whose name was Narayan, and the attendants of Lord Vishnu came to relieve him from the bonds of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death. The word Ram consists of two syllables, Ra and Ma. These are unseparated and are decorated with the loving word Ha, meaning O. The letters of the holy name have so much spiritual potency that they act even when uttered improperly.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the word vyavahita, improperly uttered, is not used here to refer to the mundane vibration of the letters of the alphabet. Such negligent utterance for the sense gratification of materialistic persons is not a vibration of transcendental sound. Utterance of the holy name, while one engages in sense gratification, is an impediment on the path toward achieving ecstatic love for Krishna. On the other hand, if one who is eager for devotional service utters the holy name even partially or improperly, the holy name, which is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exhibits its spiritual potency because of that person's offenseless utterance. Thus one is relieved from all unwanted practices, and one gradually awakens his dormant love for Krishna. Namacharya Haridas Thakur continued,
If a devotee once utters the holy name of the Lord, or if it penetrates his mind or enters his ear, which is the channel of oral reception, that holy name will certainly deliver him from material bondage, whether vibrated properly or improperly, with correct or incorrect grammar, or properly joined or vibrated in separate parts. O Brahman, the potency of the holy name is therefore certainly great. However, if one uses the vibration of the holy name for the benefit of the material body, for material wealth and followers, or under the influence of greed and atheism, in other words, if one utters the name with offenses, such chanting will not produce the desired result very soon. Therefore, one should diligently avoid offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse from the Padma Purana is included in the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatan Goswami. Therein, Srila Sanatan Goswami gives the following explanation. If one somehow or other hears, utters, or remembers the holy name, or if it catches his mind while coming near his ears, that holy name, even if vibrated in separate words, will act. An example of such separation is given as follows. Suppose one is using the two words halam riktam. Now the syllable ha in the word halam and the syllable ri in riktam are separately pronounced, but nevertheless the holy name will act because one somehow or other utters the word Hari. Similarly, in the word Raja Mahisi, Ra and Ma appear in two separate words, but because they somehow or other appear together, the holy name Ram will act, provided there are no offenses. The holy name has so much spiritual potency that it can deliver one from all sinful reactions and material entanglements. But utterance of the holy name will not be fruitful very soon, if done to facilitate sinning. The holy name is so powerful that it must act. But when one utters the holy name with offenses, its action will be delayed, not immediate, although in favorable circumstances the holy names of the Lord act very quickly. Namacharya Haridas Thakur continued.
If one offenselessly utters the holy name, even imperfectly, one can be freed from all the results of sinful life. Listen to this verse found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. O reservoir of all good qualities, just worship Sri Krishna, the purifier of all purifiers, the most exalted of the personalities worshipped by choice poetry. Worship him with a faithful, unflinching mind, without duplicity, and in a highly elevated manner. Thus worship the Lord, whose name is like the sun. For just as a slight appearance of the sun dissipates the darkness of night, so a slight appearance of the holy name of Krishna can drive away the darkness of ignorance that arises in the heart due to greatly sinful activities performed in previous lives.
Haridas continued.
Even a faint light from the holy name of the Lord can eradicate all the reactions of sinful life. Listen to this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 6:2-49. While dying, Ajamil chanted the holy name of the Lord, intending to call his son Narayan. Nevertheless, he attained the spiritual world. What then to speak of those who chant the holy name with faith and veneration? Because of even the faintest rays of the effulgence of the Lord's holy name, one can attain liberation. We can see this in all the revealed scriptures. The evidence appears in the story of Ajamil in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this from Haridas Thakur, the happiness within his heart increased, but as a matter of course, he still inquired further.
On this earth, there are many living entities, some moving and some not moving. What will happen to the trees, plants, insects, and other living entities? How will they be delivered from material bondage?
Haridas Thakur replied,
My dear Lord, the deliverance of all moving and non-moving living entities takes place only by your mercy. You have already granted this mercy and delivered them. You have loudly chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and everyone, moving or not moving, has benefited by hearing it. My Lord, the moving entities who have heard your loud Sankirtan have already been delivered from the bondage of the material world. And after the non-moving living entities like trees hear it, there is an echo. Actually, however, it is not an echo. It is the kirtan of those non-moving living entities. All this, although inconceivable, is possible by your mercy. When loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is performed all over the world by those who follow in your footsteps, all living entities, moving and non-moving, dance in ecstatic devotional love. My dear Lord, all the incidents that took place while you were going to Vrindavan through the forest known as Jarikanda have been revealed to me by your servant, Balabhadra Bhattacharya. When your devotee, Vasudev Dutt, submitted his plea at your lotus feet for the deliverance of all living entities, you accepted that request. My dear Lord, you have accepted the form of a devotee just to deliver all the fallen souls of this world. You have preached the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and in this way freed all moving and non-moving living entities from material bondage.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied,
If all living entities are liberated, the entire universe would be devoid of living beings.
Haridas Thakur replied,
My Lord, as long as you are situated within the material world, you will send to the spiritual sky all developed moving and non-moving living entities in different species. Then again, you will awaken the living entities who are not yet developed and engage them in activities. In this way, all moving and non-moving living entities will come into existence, and the entire universe will be filled as it was previously.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. While we are preaching, opposing elements sometimes argue, if all living entities were delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, what would happen then? The universe would be devoid of living entities. In answer to this, we may say that in a prison there are many prisoners, but if one thinks that the prison would be empty if all the prisoners adopted good behavior, he is incorrect. Even if all the prisoners within a jail are freed, other prisoners will fill it up again. A prison will never be vacant, for there are many prospective criminals who will fill the prison cells, even if the present criminals are freed by the government. Haridas continued.
Previously, when Lord Ram left this world, he took with him all the living entities of Ayodhya. Then he filled Ayodhya again with other living entities. My dear Lord, you have set a plan in motion by descending to this material world, but no one can understand how you are acting. Formerly, when Lord Krishna descended in Vrindavan, he freed all living entities in the universe from material existence in the same way. Listen to this quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Vishnu Purana. Krishna, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Master of all masters of mystic power, delivers the living entities, moving and non-moving. Nothing is astonishing in the activities of the Lord. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead may be seen, glorified, or remembered with an attitude of envy, he nevertheless awards the most confidential liberation, which is rarely achieved by the demigods and demons. What then can be said of those who are already engaged in devotional service to the Lord? By descending as an incarnation at Navadvip, you, just like Krishna, have already delivered all living entities in this universe. One may say that he understands the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He may know whatever he may know, but as far as I am concerned, this is my conclusion. My dear Lord, your pastimes are just like an ocean of nectar. It is not possible for me to conceive how great that ocean is, or even to understand a drop of it.
Hearing all this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was astonished.
These are actually my confidential pastimes. How could Haridas have understood them?
Greatly satisfied by the statements of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him. Outwardly, however, he avoided further discussions of these matters. This is a characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he wants to cover his opulence, he cannot do so before his devotees. This is well known everywhere and beautifully stated by Yamunacharya in his Strota Ratna. O my Lord, everything within material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover your characteristics by your own energy, but nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to his personal devotees and began speaking about Haridas Thakur's transcendental qualities as if he had hundreds of mouths. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu derives great pleasure glorifying his devotees, and among the devotees, Haridas Thakur is the foremost. The transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur are innumerable and unfathomable. One may describe a portion of them, but to count them all is impossible. In the Chaitanya Mangala, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has described the attributes of Haridas Thakur to some extent. No one can describe all the qualities of Haridas Thakur. One may say something about them just to purify himself. O devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please hear something about the qualities of Haridas Thakur that Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has not described in detail. After leaving his childhood home, Haridas Thakur stayed for some time in the forest of Benapola. Haridas Thakur constructed a cottage in a solitary forest. There he planted a tulsi plant, and in front of the tulsi he would chant the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily. He chanted throughout the entire day and night.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The village of Benapola is situated in the district of Yasohara, which is now in Bangladesh. From his personal example, we can understand that chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and becoming highly elevated in Krishna consciousness is very simple. Without difficulty, one can sit down anywhere, especially on the bank of the Ganges, Jamuna, or any other sacred river, devise a sitting place or cottage, plant a tulsi tree, and before the tulsi, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra undisturbed. Haridas Thakur used to chant the holy name on his beads 300,000 times daily. Throughout the entire day and night, he would chant the 16 names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One should not, however, imitate Haridas Thakur, for no one else can chant the holy name 300,000 times a day. Such chanting is for the Mukta Purush, or liberated soul. We can follow his example, however, by chanting at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on beads every day and offer respect to the tulsi plant. This is not at all difficult for anyone, and the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with a vow before the tulsi plant has such great spiritual potency that simply by doing this, one can become spiritually strong. Therefore, we request the members of the Hare Krishna movement to follow Haridas Thakur's example rigidly. Chanting 16 rounds does not take much time, nor is offering respects to the tulsi plant difficult. The process has immense spiritual potency. One should not miss this opportunity.
For his bodily maintenance, he would go to a brahmana's house and beg some food. He was spiritually so influential that all the neighboring people worshipped him.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the days of Haridas Thakur, all the Brahmins worshipped Narayan in the form of Shalagram Shila. Therefore, begging from a Brahmin's house meant taking Krishna Prasadam, which is transcendental. If we take food from the houses of others, such as karmis, we shall have to share the qualities of those from whom we take alms. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took prasadam in the houses of Vaishnavas. This is the general process. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are advised not to take food from anywhere but a Vaishnav's or Brahmin's house, where deity worship is performed.
A landholder named Ramachandra Khan was the zamindar of that district. He was very envious of Vaishnavas and was therefore a great atheist. Unable to tolerate that such respect was being offered to Haridas Thakur, Ramachandra Khan planned in various ways to dishonor him. By no means could he find any fault in the character of Haridas Thakur. Therefore, he called for local prostitutes and began a plan to discredit His Holiness. Ramachandra Khan said to the prostitutes,
"There is a mendicant named Haridas Thakur. All of you devise a way to deviate him from his vows of austerity." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service is the path of Vairagya Vidya, renunciation and knowledge. Haridas Thakur was following this path, but Ramachandra Khan planned to induce him to break his vows. Renunciation means renunciation of sensual pleasure, especially the pleasure of sex. Therefore, a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanaprast is strictly prohibited from having relationships with women. Haridas Thakur was strictly renounced, and thus Ramachandra Khan called for prostitutes, because prostitutes know how to break a man's vow of celibacy by their feminine influence, and thus pollute a mendicant or a person engaged in devotional life. It was impossible for Ramachandra Khan to induce any other woman to break Haridas Thakur's vow, and therefore he called for prostitutes. Free mingling with women has never been possible in India, but for one who wanted to associate with society girls, they were available in the district of prostitutes. There were prostitutes in human society even during Lord Krishna's time, for it is said that the prostitutes of Dwarka city came forth to receive the Lord. Although they were prostitutes, they were also devotees of Krishna.
Among the prostitutes, one attractive young girl was selected. "I shall attract the mind of Haridas Thakur within 3 days," she promised. Ramachandra Khan said to the prostitute,
"My constable will go with you, so that as soon as he sees you with Haridas Thakur, immediately he will arrest him and bring both of you to me."
The prostitute replied, "First let me have union with him once. Then the second time I shall take your constable with me to arrest him." At night, the prostitute, after dressing herself most attractively, went to the cottage of Haridas Thakur with great jubilation. After offering obeisances to the tulsi plant, she went to the door of Haridas Thakur, offered him obeisances, and stood there. Exposing part of her body to his view, she sat down on the threshold of the door and spoke to him in very sweet words. "My dear Thakur, O great preacher, great devotee, you are so beautifully built, and your youth is just beginning. Who is the woman who could control her mind after seeing you? I am eager to be united with you. My mind is greedy for this. If I don't obtain you, I shall not be able to keep my body and soul together."
I shall accept you without fail, but you will have to wait until I have finished chanting my regular rounds on my beads. Until that time, please sit and listen to the chanting of the holy name. As soon as I am finished, I shall fulfill your desire.
Hearing this, the prostitute remained sitting there while Haridas Thakur chanted on his beads until the light of morning appeared. When she saw that it was morning, the prostitute stood up and left. Coming before Ramachandra Khan, she informed him of all the news. "Today, Haridas Thakur promised to enjoy with me. Tomorrow, certainly, I shall have union with him." The next night, when the prostitute came again, Haridas Thakur gave her many assurances.
Last night you were disappointed. Please excuse my offense. I shall certainly accept you. Please sit down and hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra until my regular chanting is finished. Then your desire will surely be fulfilled.
After offering her obeisances to the Tulsi plant and to Haridas Thakur, she sat down at the door. Hearing Haridas Thakur chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, she also chanted, "O my Lord Hari, O my Lord Hari."
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Herein, one can clearly see how a Vaishnav delivers a fallen soul by a transcendental trick. The prostitute came to pollute Haridas Thakur, but he took it as his duty to deliver the prostitute. As clearly demonstrated here, the process of deliverance is very simple. With faith and reverence, the prostitute associated with Haridas Thakur, who personally treated her material disease by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Although the prostitute had an ulterior motive, somehow or other she got the association of a Vaishnav and satisfied him by occasionally chanting in imitation. The conclusion is that associating with a Vaishnav, chanting the holy name of the Lord, and offering obeisances to the Tulsi plant or a Vaishnav all lead one to become a transcendental devotee who is completely cleansed of all material contamination.
When the night came to an end, the prostitute was restless. Seeing this, Haridas Thakur spoke to her as follows.
I have vowed to chant 10 million times a month. I have taken this vow, but now it is nearing its end. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to external vision, Haridas Thakur belonged to a Muslim family. Nevertheless, because he engaged himself in performing the yajna of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he became a regularly initiated Brahmin. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:33-6, even if a devotee comes from a family of dog-eaters, if he surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately becomes a qualified Brahmin and is immediately fit to perform yajna, whereas a person born in a family of Brahmins has to wait until completing the reformatory processes before he may be called samskritya, purified. I thought that today I would be able to finish my performance of yajna, my chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. I tried my best to chant the holy name all night, but still I did not quite finish. Tomorrow I will surely finish, and my vow will be fulfilled. Then it will be possible for me to enjoy with you in full freedom. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Haridas Thakur never wanted to enjoy the prostitute, but he tricked her to deliver her by giving her a chance to hear the holy name of the Lord while he chanted. Pure devotees chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and simply by hearing this chanting from a purified, transcendental person, one is purified of all sinful activities, no matter how low-born or fallen one may be. As soon as one is thus completely freed from the reactions of sinful activities, he is eligible to render devotional service to the Lord.
The prostitute returned to Ramachandra Khan and informed him of what had happened. The next day, she came earlier, at the beginning of the evening, and stayed with Haridas Thakur. After offering obeisances to the Tulsi plant and to Haridas Thakur, she sat down on the threshold of the room. Thus she began to hear Haridas Thakur's chanting, and she also personally chanted Hari, Hari, the holy name of the Lord.
Today it will be possible for me to finish my chanting.
Haridas Thakur explained.
Then I shall satisfy all your desires.
The night ended while Haridas Thakur was chanting, but by his association, the mind of the prostitute had changed. The prostitute, now purified, fell at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur and confessed that Ramachandra Khan had appointed her to pollute him. Because I have taken the profession of a prostitute, she said, I have performed unlimited sinful acts. My Lord, be merciful to me. Deliver my fallen soul. Haridas Thakur replied,
I know everything about the conspiracy of Ramachandra Khan. He is nothing but an ignorant fool. Therefore his activities do not make me feel unhappy. On the very day Ramachandra Khan was planning his intrigue against me, I would have left this place immediately. But because you came to me, I stayed here for 3 days to deliver you.
The prostitute said, Kindly act as my spiritual master. Instruct me in my duty, by which I can get relief from material existence. Haridas Thakur replied,
Immediately go home and distribute to the Brahmins whatever property you have. Then come back to this room and stay here forever in Krishna consciousness. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra continuously and render service to the Tulsi plant by watering her and offering prayers to her. In this way you will very soon get the opportunity to be sheltered at the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we are teaching our followers to chant the Hare Krishna mantra continuously on beads. Even those who are not accustomed to this practice are advised to chant at least 16 rounds on their beads, so that they may be trained. Otherwise, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended, Turnadapi sunechena tororiva shahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanaya sada hari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Sada means always. Haridas Thakur says, Nirantara Namalao. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra without stopping.
After thus instructing the prostitute about the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Haridas Thakur stood up and left, continually chanting. Thereafter, the prostitute distributed to the Brahmanas whatever household possessions she had, following the order of her spiritual master.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All the girl's possessions had been earned by professional prostitution and were therefore products of her sinful life. When such possessions are given to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas, who engage them in the service of the Lord because of their advancement in spiritual life, this indirectly helps the person who gives the charity, for he is thus relieved of sinful reactions. As Krishna promises, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami, I shall save you from all sinful reactions.
The prostitute shaved her head clean in accordance with Vaishnava principles and stayed in that room wearing only one cloth. Following in the footsteps of her spiritual master, she began chanting the holy name of Krishna 300,000 times a day. She chanted throughout the entire day and night. She worshipped the tulsi plant, following in the footsteps of her spiritual master. Instead of eating regularly, she chewed whatever food she received as alms, and if nothing was supplied, she would fast. Thus, by eating frugally and fasting, she conquered her senses, and as soon as her senses were controlled, symptoms of love of Godhead appeared in her person. Thus, the prostitute became a celebrated devotee. She became very advanced in spiritual life, and many stalwart Vaishnavas would come to see her.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Stalwart, highly advanced Vaishnava devotees are not interested in seeing prostitutes. But when a prostitute or any other fallen soul becomes a Vaishnava, stalwart Vaishnavas are interested in seeing them. Anyone can be turned into a Vaishnava if he or she follows the Vaishnava principles. A devotee who follows these principles is no longer on the material platform. Therefore, it is one's strict adherence to the principles that should be considered, not the country of one's birth. Many devotees join our Krishna consciousness movement from Europe and America, but one should not therefore consider them European Vaishnavas or American Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is a Vaishnava, and should therefore be given all due respect as a Vaishnava.
Seeing the sublime character of the prostitute, everyone was astonished. Everyone glorified the influence of Haridas Thakur and offered him obeisances.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said, Phalena parichiyate. One is recognized by the result of his actions. In Vaishnava society, there are many types of Vaishnavas. Some of them are called Goswamis, some are called Swamis, some are Prabhus, and some are Prabhupada. One is not recognized, however, simply by such a name. A spiritual master is recognized as an actual guru when it is seen that he has changed the character of his disciples. Haridas Thakur actually changed the character of the professional prostitute. People greatly appreciated this, and therefore they all offered obeisances to Haridas Thakur and glorified him.
By inducing a prostitute to disturb Haridas Thakur, Ramachandra Khan caused a seed of offense at his lotus feet to germinate. This seed later became a tree, and when it fructified, Ramachandra Khan ate its fruits. This offense at the lotus feet of an exalted devotee has resulted in a wonderful narration. Taking advantage of the opportunity offered by these incidents, I shall explain what happened. O devotees, please listen. Ramachandra Khan was naturally a non-devotee. Now, having offended the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, he became just like a demoniac atheist. Because of blaspheming the cult of Vaishnavism and insulting the devotees for a long time, he now received the results of his offensive activities. When Lord Nityananda returned to Bengal to preach the cult of bhakti, love of Godhead, he began touring all over the country for two purposes: to spread the cult of bhakti and to defeat and subdue the atheists. Lord Nityananda, the most dedicated devotee of the Lord, moved throughout the country.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Nityananda Prabhu carried out the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way, and those who strictly follow Nityananda Prabhu perform the same activities. There are two classes of devotees. One is called Gosthianandi, and the other is called Bhajananandi. A devotee who does not preach, but always engages in devotional activities, is called a Bhajananandi, whereas a devotee who is not only expert in devotional service, but who also preaches the cult of bhakti and defeats all kinds of agnostics, is called a Gosthianandi.
Lord Nityananda, who is omniscient because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, came to the house of Ramachandra Khan and sat down on the altar of the Durga Mandap.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Well-to-do Hindu gentlemen constructed their houses with a place called the Durga Mandap for the worship of the goddess Durga. There they generally held worship of the goddess every year in the month of Ashvina. Ramachandra Khan possessed such a Durga Mandap at his residence.
When the Durga Mandap and the courtyard became filled with crowds of men, Ramachandra Khan, who was inside the house, sent his servant to Lord Nityananda.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In those days, and even now, the palatial buildings of respectable people, especially in the villages of Bengal, were divided into two parts. The inside part was especially meant for the family, and the ladies would live there, unexposed to men. That part of the house was called Bitara Badi, or the inside house. In the outside house, or Bahir Badi, the respectable gentleman received visitors and kept his business office. The Durga Mandap would be part of this outside house. Thus, when Lord Nityananda entered the outside house, Ramachandra Khan was in the inside house with members of his family. When Nityananda Prabhu arrived, Ramachandra did not receive him personally, but sent his servant to inform him indirectly to go away.
The servant informed Lord Nityananda,
"My dear sir, Ramachandra Khan has sent me to accommodate you to some common man's house. You might go to the house of a milkman, for the cowshed is spacious, whereas the space here in the Durga Mandap is insufficient because you have many followers with you."
When Nityananda Prabhu heard this order from the servant of Ramachandra Khan, he became very angry and came out. Laughing very loudly, he spoke as follows:
"Ramachandra Khan spoke rightly. This place is unfit for me. It is fit for cow-killing meat-eaters."
Having said this, Lord Nityananda stood up and left in an angry mood. To chastise Ramachandra Khan, he did not even stay in that village. Ramachandra Khan ordered the servant to dig up the dirt in the place where Lord Nityananda had sat. To purify the Durga Mandap temple and the courtyard, Ramachandra Khan sprinkled and smeared it with water mixed with cow dung, but still his mind was unsatisfied. Ramachandra Khan's business was questionable, for he tried to avoid paying income tax to the government. Therefore, the government's Minister of Finance was angry and came to his residence. the Muslim minister made his residence in the Durga Mandap of Ramachandra Khan. He killed a cow and cooked the meat at that very place. He arrested Ramachandra Khan along with his wife and sons, and then he continuously plundered the house and village for 3 days. In that very room he cooked the flesh of a cow for 3 consecutive days. Then the next day he left, accompanied by his followers. The Muslim minister took away Ramachandra Khan's position, wealth, and followers. For many days the village remained deserted. Wherever an advanced devotee is insulted, for one man's fault, the entire town or place is afflicted. Haridas Thakur walked until he came to the village known as Chandapur. There he stayed at the house of Balaram Acharya.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Chandapur is just east of the house of the 2 brothers, Govardhan and Hiranya, the father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, respectively. In Chandapur lived Balaram Acharya and Yadunandana Acharya, the priests of these 2 personalities, and when Haridas Thakur went there, he lived with them.
Hiranya and Govardhan were the 2 heads of the governmental treasury in that division of the country. Their priest was named Balaram Acharya. In the village, Haridas Thakur was given a solitary thatched cottage where he performed the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He accepted prasad at the house of Balaram Acharya. Raghunath Das, who was the son of Govardhan and was later to become Raghunath Das Goswami, was a boy at that time engaged in study. He came to see Haridas Thakur daily. Naturally, Haridas Thakur was merciful toward him, and because of the merciful benediction of this Vaishnava, he later attained the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. At the residence of Hiranya and Govardhan, discourses took place by which Haridas Thakur was glorified. O devotees, please listen to that wonderful story. One day, Balaram Acharya requested Haridas Thakur with great humility to come to the assembly of the Majumdaras, Hiranya and Govardhan. Thus Balaram Acharya went there with Haridas Thakur. Seeing Haridas Thakur, the 2 brothers immediately stood up and fell at his lotus feet. Then, with great respect, they offered him a place to sit. In that assembly were many learned scholars, brahmanas, and respectable gentlemen. The 2 brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, were also greatly learned. Everyone there began to speak of Haridas Thakur's great qualities as if they had 5 mouths. Hearing this, both brothers were extremely happy. It was mentioned in the assembly that Haridas Thakur chanted the holy names of Krishna 300,000 times a day. Thus all the learned scholars began to discuss the glories of the holy name. Some of them said, "By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is freed from the reactions of all sinful life." Others said, "Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, a living being is liberated from material bondage." Haridas Thakur protested.
These two benedictions are not the true result of chanting the holy name. Actually, by chanting the holy name without offenses, one awakens his ecstatic love for the lotus feet of Krishna. This is confirmed by a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11:2-40. When a person is actually advanced and takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord, who is very dear to him, he is agitated and loudly chants the holy name. He also laughs, cries, becomes agitated, and chants just like a madman, not caring for outsiders. Liberation and extinction from the reactions of sinful life are two concomitant byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. An example is found in the gleams of the morning sunlight, as suggested in this verse, found in the Padyavali. As the rising sun immediately dissipates all the world's darkness, which is deep like an ocean, so the holy name of the Lord, if chanted once without offenses, dissipates all the reactions of a living being's sinful life. All glories to that holy name of the Lord, which is auspicious for the entire world.
After reciting this verse, Haridas Thakur said,
O learned scholars, please explain the meaning of this verse.
But the audience requested Haridas Thakur, "It is better for you to explain the meaning of this important verse." Haridas Thakur explained,
As the sun begins to rise, even before it is visible, it dissipates the darkness of night. With the first glimpse of sunlight, fear of thieves, ghosts, and demons immediately disappears. And when the sun is actually visible, everything is manifest, and everyone begins performing his religious activities and regulative duties. Similarly, the first hint that offenseless chanting of the Lord's holy name has awakened dissipates the reactions of sinful life immediately. And when one chants the holy name offenselessly, one awakens to service in ecstatic love at the lotus feet of Krishna. Liberation is the insignificant result derived from a glimpse of the awakening of offenseless chanting of the holy name. This is explained in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. While dying, Ajamil chanted the holy name of the Lord, intending to call his son Narayan. Nevertheless, he attained the spiritual world. What then to speak of those who chant the holy name with faith and reverence?
Haridas continued,
Liberation, which is unacceptable for a pure devotee, is always offered by Krishna without difficulty, as explained by Lord Kapiladev. My devotees do not accept Salokya, Sharsti, Swarupya, Samipya, or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations, in preference to serving me.
At the house of Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdara, a person named Gopala Chakravarti was officially the chief tax collector. His duty as chief tax collector was to collect 1,200,000 coins to deposit in the treasury of the emperor. He had handsome bodily features and was learned and youthful, but he could not tolerate the statement that simply by glimpsing the awakening of the Lord's holy name, one can attain liberation. This young man, Gopala Chakravarti, became very angry upon hearing the statements of Haridas Thakur. he immediately criticized him. "O assembly of learned scholars," he said, "just hear the conclusion of this emotional devotee. After many millions upon millions of births, when one is complete in absolute knowledge, one still may not attain liberation. Yet this man says that one may attain it simply by the awakening of a glimpse of the holy name." Haridas Thakur said,
Why are you doubtful? The revealed scriptures say that one can attain liberation simply by a glimpse of offenseless chanting of the holy name. For a devotee who enjoys the transcendental bliss of devotional service, liberation is most insignificant. Therefore, pure devotees never desire to achieve liberation. Evidence of this is stated in the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya. My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness, including even Brahmananda, to be like the water contained in the hoofprint of a calf.
Gopala Chakravarti angrily said, "If one is not liberated by Namabas, then you may be certain that I shall cut off your nose." Then Haridas Thakur accepted the challenge offered by Gopala Chakravarti.
If by Namabas liberation is not available, certainly I shall cut off my own nose.
All the members of the assembly who had heard the challenge were greatly agitated, and they got up, making a tumultuous sound. Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdara both immediately chastised the Brahmana tax collector. The priest named Balaramacharya also chastised Gopala Chakravarti. He said,
You are a foolish logician. What do you know about devotional service to the Lord? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The philosophy enunciated by the Mayavadis is called Gata Patiya, pot and earth philosophy. According to this philosophy, everything is one. Such philosophers see no distinction between a pot made of earth and the earth itself, reasoning that anything made of earth, such as different pots, is also the same earth. Since Gopala Chakravarti was a Gatapatiya logician, a gross materialist, what could he understand about the transcendental devotional service of the Lord?
Balaramacharya continued,
You have insulted Haridas Thakur. Thus there will be a dangerous position for you. You should not expect anything auspicious.
Then Haridas Thakur got up to leave, and the Majumdaras, Gopala Chakravarti's employers, immediately kicked him out and dismissed him from their service. With all the members of the assembly, the two Majumdaras fell at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was smiling, however, and he spoke in a sweet voice.
None of you are at fault. Indeed, even this ignorant, so-called Brahmin is not at fault, for he is accustomed to dry speculation and logic. One cannot understand the glories of the holy name simply by logic and argument. Therefore, this man cannot possibly understand the glories of the holy name. All of you now, please go to your homes. May Lord Krishna bestow his blessings upon you all. Do not be sorry because of my being insulted.
Then Hiranyadas Majumdara returned to his home and ordered that Gopala Chakravarti not be admitted therein. Within 3 days, that Brahmana was attacked by leprosy, and as a result, his highly raised nose melted away and fell off. The Brahmana's toes and fingers were beautiful, like golden-colored champak buds. But because of leprosy, they all withered and gradually melted away. Seeing the condition of Gopala Chakravarti, everyone was astonished. Everyone praised the influence of Haridas Thakur and offered him obeisances. Although Haridas Thakur, as a Vaishnava, did not take seriously the Brahmana's offense, the Supreme Personality of Godhead could not tolerate it, and thus he made the Brahmana suffer the consequences. A characteristic of a pure devotee is that he excuses any offense by an ignorant rascal. A characteristic of Krishna, however, is that he cannot tolerate blasphemy of his devotees.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The characteristic of a Vaishnav and the characteristic of the Lord mentioned in this verse are very significant. In his Shikshastika, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught the characteristics of a Vaishnav. Ternadapi sunichena tororiva shihishnuna amanina manadena kirtanaya sadahadi. A Vaishnav strictly follows this principle of being humbler than the grass and more tolerant than a tree, expecting no honor from others, but offering honor to everyone. In this way, a Vaishnav is simply interested in chanting about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and glorifying Him. Haridas Thakur epitomized this foremost order of Vaishnavism. Krishna, however, cannot tolerate any insults or blasphemy against a Vaishnav. For example, Prahlad Maharaj was chastised by his father, Hiranyakasipu, in so many ways. But although Prahlad tolerated this, Krishna did not. The Lord therefore came in the form of Nrsimhadev to kill Hiranyakasipu. Similarly, although Srila Haridas Thakur tolerated the insult by Gopala Chakravarti, Krishna could not. The Lord immediately punished Gopal Chakravarti by making him suffer from leprosy. Offending or blaspheming a Vaishnav has been described as the greatest offense, and it has been compared to a mad elephant. When a mad elephant enters a garden, it ruins all the creepers, flowers, and trees. Similarly, if a devotee properly executing his devotional service becomes an offender at the lotus feet of his spiritual master or another Vaishnav, his devotional service is spoiled.
Haridas Thakur was unhappy when he heard that the Brahmana Gopala Chakravarti had been attacked by leprosy. Thus, after informing Balaramacharya, the priest of Hiranya Majumdara, he left and went to Shantipur, the home of Advaita Acharya. Meeting Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur offered him respect and obeisances. Advaita Acharya embraced him and showed respect to him in return. On the bank of the Ganges, in a solitary place, Advaita Acharya made a cave-like home for Haridas Thakur and spoke to him about the real meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita in terms of devotional service. Haridas Thakur accepted food daily at the house of Advaita Acharya. Meeting together, the two of them would taste the nectar of discourses on the subject matter of Krishna. After some time, Haridas Thakur said,
"My dear Advaita Acharya, let me submit something before your honor. Every day you give me alms of food to eat. What is the necessity of this? You are living within a society of great Brahmins and aristocrats. But without fear or shame, you adore a lower-class man like me. My dear sir, your behavior is most uncommon. Indeed, sometimes I am afraid to speak to you. Please favor me by protecting me from the behavior of society." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. While Haridas Thakur was staying under the care of Advaita Acharya, he was afraid of the behavior of the society in Shantipur, which was full of exceedingly aristocratic Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family and was later recognized as a great Vaishnav. But nevertheless, the Brahmins were very critical of him. Thus, Haridas Thakur was afraid that Advaita Acharya would be put into some difficulty because of his familiarity with Haridas Thakur. Srila Advaita Acharya treated Haridas Thakur as a most elevated Vaishnav. But others, like Ramachandra Khan, were envious of Haridas Thakur. Of course, we have to follow in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya, not caring for the people like Ramachandra Khan. At present, many Vaishnavas are coming to our Krishna consciousness movement from among the Europeans and Americans. And although men like Ramachandra Khan are always envious of such Vaishnavas, one should follow in the footsteps of Srila Advaita Acharya by treating all of them as Vaishnavas. Although they are not as exalted as Haridas Thakur, such Americans and Europeans, having accepted the principles of Vaishnava philosophy and behavior, should never be excluded from Vaishnava society.
Advaita Acharya replied,
My dear Haridas, do not be afraid. I shall behave strictly according to the principles of the revealed scriptures. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Advaita Acharya was not afraid of the strict Brahminical culture and customs of society. As stated in the Shastric injunctions, which are the true medium of evidence or proof, anyone can go back to Godhead, even if born in a low family. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisu papayonaya striyo vaishas tata sudras tepi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Sudras, can attain the supreme destination. Though having taken a low birth in human society, one who accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is quite competent to go back home, back to Godhead, and one who is a bona fide candidate for going back to Godhead should not be considered low-born or a Chandala. That is also a Shastric injunction, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4-18. Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkasha abhira shumba yavana kasadaya yanye chapapa yarapasraya sraya sudyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. Not only the Yavanas and Kasadaya, but even those born in still lower families can be purified by the grace of a devotee of Lord Krishna. For Krishna empowers such devotees to perform this purification. Advaita Acharya had confidence in the Shastric evidence and did not care about social customs. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, is a cultural movement that does not care about the local social conventions. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya, we can accept a devotee from any part of the world and recognize him as a Brahmin as soon as he is qualified, due to following the principles of Vaishnava behavior. Feeding you is equal to feeding 10 million Brahmins.
Advaita Acharya said,
Therefore, accept this Shraddha Patra. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Shraddha is prasadam, offered to the forefathers at a certain date of the year or month. The Shraddha Patra, or plate offered to the forefathers, is then offered to the best of the Brahmins in society. Instead of offering the Shraddha Patra to any other Brahmin, Advaitacharya offered it to Haridas Thakur, considering him greater than any of the foremost Brahmins. This act by Srila Advaitacharya proves that Haridas Thakur was always situated in a transcendental position, and was therefore always greater than even the most exalted Brahmin, for he was situated above the mode of goodness of the material world.
Advaita Prabhu happened to be at that time the president of the Brahmana society, very learned scholar and Vaishnava, and he was entrusted to be the president of Brahmana society in Shantipur. So, when he performed ritualistic ceremony after the death of his father, funeral ceremony, he offered the first prasadam to Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was little shy accepting that Advaita Prabhu, you have exalted me in so many ways, but you, because according to the Smarta Vidhan, when one is performing the funeral ceremony of his father, the first portion would be offered to the best of the Brahmins. So it was offered to Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur felt little shyness that Advaita Prabhu, you love me, that is all right, but you are doing all these things, you may be socially ostracized. So Advaita Prabhu said, no, by feeding you, I am feeding 1 crore of best Brahmins. And let any Brahmana come to me, I shall convince him. That was his statement. So, this Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that we can accept anyone. It doesn't matter where from he is coming, and make him a pure Vaishnava.
Advaita Acharya was always absorbed in thoughts of how to deliver the fallen souls of the entire world.
The entire world is full of non-devotees.
He thought,
How will they be delivered?
determined to deliver all the fallen souls, Advaita Acharya decided to cause Krishna to descend. With his vow, he began to offer Ganges water and tulsi leaves to worship the Lord. Similarly, Haridas Thakur chanted in his cave on the bank of the Ganges with the intention of causing Krishna's descent. Because of the devotional service of these two persons, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended as an incarnation. Thus he preached the holy name of the Lord and ecstatic love of Krishna to deliver the entire world. There is another incident concerning Haridas Thakur's uncommon behavior. One will be astonished to hear about it. Hear about such incidents without putting forth dry arguments, for these incidents are beyond our material reasoning. One must believe in them with faith. One day, Haridas Thakur was sitting in his cave, reciting the holy name very loudly. The night was full of moonlight, which made the waves of the Ganges look dazzling. All directions were clear and bright. Thus everyone who saw the beauty of the cave with the tulsi plant on a clean altar was astonished and satisfied at heart. At that time, in that beautiful scene, a woman appeared in the courtyard. The beauty of her body was so bright that it tinged the entire place with a yellow hue. The scent of her body perfumed all directions, and the tingling of her ornaments startled the ear. After coming there, the woman offered obeisances to the Tulsi plant, and after circumambulating the Tulsi plant, she came to the door of the cave where Haridas Thakur was sitting. With folded hands, she offered obeisances at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Sitting at the door, she then spoke in a very sweet voice. "My dear Haridas," she said, "you are the friend of the entire world. You are so beautiful and qualified. I have come here only for union with you. My dear sir, kindly accept me and be merciful to me, for it is a characteristic of all saintly persons to be kind toward the poor and fallen." After saying this, she began to manifest various postures which even the greatest philosopher would lose his patience upon seeing. Haridas Thakur was immovable, for he was deeply determined. He began to speak to her, being very merciful toward her.
I have been initiated into a vow to perform a great sacrifice by chanting the holy name a certain number of times every day. As long as the vow to chant is unfulfilled, I do not desire anything else. When I finish my chanting, then I have an opportunity to do anything. Sit down at the door and hear the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As soon as the chanting is finished, I shall satisfy you as you desire.
After saying this, Haridas Thakur continued to chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus the woman sitting before him began to hear the chanting of the holy name. In this way, as he chanted and chanted, the morning approached. And when the woman saw that it was morning, she got up and left. For 3 days she approached Haridas Thakur in this way, exhibiting various feminine postures that would bewilder the mind of even Lord Brahma. Haridas Thakur was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and the holy name of Krishna. Therefore, the feminine poses the woman exhibited were just like crying in the forest. At the end of the night on the 3rd day, the woman spoke to Haridas Thakur as follows. "My dear sir, for 3 days you have cheated me by giving me false assurances. For I see that throughout the entire day and night, your chanting of the holy name is never finished." Haridas Thakur said,
My dear friend, what can I do? I have made a vow. How then can I give it up?
After offering obeisances to Haridas Thakur, the woman said, "I am the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I came here to test you."
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Lord Krishna says, Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya doratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam taranti te. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This was actually proved by the behavior of Haridas Thakur. Maya enchants the entire world. Indeed, people have forgotten the ultimate goal of life because of the dazzling attractions of this material world. But this dazzling attraction, especially the attractive beauty of a woman, is meant for persons who are not surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says, Mameva ye prapadyante mayametam taranti te. One who is surrendered unto me cannot be conquered by the illusory energy. The illusory energy personally came to test Haridas Thakur. But herein she admits her defeat, for she was unable to captivate him. How was this possible? It was because Haridas Thakur, fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna by chanting the holy names of the Lord 300,000 times daily as a vow.
I have previously captivated the mind of even Lord Brahma. What to speak of others? Your mind alone I have failed to attract.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Beginning from Lord Brahma down to the insignificant ant, everyone, without exception, is attracted by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigods, human beings, animals, birds, beasts, trees, and plants are all attracted by sexual desire. That is the illusion of Maya. Everyone, whether a man or woman, thinks that he is the enjoyer of the illusory energy. In this way, everyone is captivated and engaged in material activities. However, because Haridas Thakur was always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and was always busy satisfying the senses of the Lord, this process alone saved him from the captivation of Maya. This is practical proof of the strength of devotional service. Because of his full engagement in the service of the Lord, he could not be induced to enjoy Maya. The verdict of the Shastras is that a pure Vaishnava, or a devotee of the Lord, never thinks of enjoying the material world, which culminates in sex life. He never thinks himself an enjoyer. Instead, he always wants to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternal, transcendental, beyond the perception of sense gratification, and beyond material qualities. Only if a living entity gives up the false conception that the body is the self, and always thinks himself an eternal servant of Krishna and the Vaishnavas, can he surpass the influence of Maya. Mameva ye prapadyante, Maya metam taranti te. A pure living entity who thus attains the stage of anartha nivriti, cessation of everything unwanted, has nothing to enjoy in the material world. One attains this stage only after properly performing the functions of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has written, Adau Shadha Tata Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya Tato Nartha Nevriti Syat Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes freed from all material attachments, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:4-15. If one is actually executing devotional service, then anarthas, the unwanted things associated with material enjoyment, will automatically disappear.
My dear sir, you are the foremost devotee. Simply seeing you and hearing you chant the holy name of Krishna has purified my consciousness. Now I want to chant the holy name of the Lord. Please be kind to me by instructing me about the ecstasy of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There is now a flood of the eternal nectar of love of Godhead due to the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya. All living entities are floating in that flood. The entire world is now thankful to the Lord. Anyone who does not float in this inundation is most condemned. Such a person cannot be delivered for millions of kalpas.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The kalpa is explained in Bhagavad Gita 8:17. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu. 1 day of Brahma is called a kalpa. A yuga, or mahayuga, consists of 4,320,000 years, and 1,000 such mahayugas constitutes one kalpa. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita says that if one does not take advantage of the Krishna consciousness movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he cannot be delivered for millions of such kalpas.
Formerly, I received the holy name of Lord Ram from Lord Shiva, but now, due to your association, I am greatly eager to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. The holy name of Lord Ram certainly gives liberation, but the holy name of Krishna transports one to the other side of the ocean of nescience and at last gives one ecstatic love of Krishna.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In an indirect way, this verse explains the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, includes both the holy names of Lord Krishna and the name of Lord Ram. Lord Ram gives one the opportunity to be liberated, but simply by liberation one does not get actual spiritual benefit. Sometimes, if one is liberated from the material world but has no shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, one falls down to the material world again. Liberation is like a state of convalescence, in which one is free from a fever, but is still not healthy. Even in the stage of convalescence, if one is not very careful, one may have a relapse. Similarly, liberation does not offer as much security as the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. It is stated in the Shastras, Yanye ravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad abhishuddha buddhaya aruya krichena param padam tata patyanti ado nadrita yushmad angraiha. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated, but who have no devotion, is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into the material existence, for they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-32. Yushmad Angraiha refers to the lotus feet of Krishna. If one does not take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, he falls down, patyanti adaha, even from liberation. The Hare Krishna mantra, however, gives liberation and at the same time offers shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. If one takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna after liberation, he attains his dormant ecstatic love for Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life.
Please give me the holy name of Krishna, and thus make me fortunate, so that I also may float in the flood of love of Godhead inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After speaking in this way, Maya worshipped the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, who initiated her by saying,
Just perform chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
After thus being instructed by Haridas Thakur, Maya left with great pleasure. Unfortunately, some people have no faith in these narrations. Therefore, I shall explain the reasons why people should have faith. Everyone who hears this will be faithful. During the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya, to inaugurate the Krishna consciousness movement, even such personalities as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the four Kumaras took birth upon this earth, being allured by ecstatic love of Lord Krishna. All of them, including the great sage Narada and devotees like Prahlad, came here in the guise of human beings, chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna together, and dancing and floating in the inundation of love of Godhead. The goddess of fortune and others, allured by love of Krishna, also came down in the form of human beings and tasted the holy name of the Lord in love. What to speak of others? Even Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, personally descends to taste the nectar of love of Godhead in the form of the chanting of Hare Krishna. What is the wonder if the maidservant of Krishna, his external energy, begs for love of Godhead? Without the mercy of a devotee and without the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, love of Godhead cannot be possible. In the activities of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the three worlds dance and chant, having come in touch with love of Godhead. This is the characteristic of his pastimes. The holy name of Krishna is so attractive that anyone who chants it, including all living entities, moving and non-moving, and even Lord Krishna himself, becomes imbued with love of Krishna. This is the effect of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. I have described but a fragment of the glories of Haridas Thakur. Hearing this satisfies the oral reception of every devotee.
The following 5 audio tracks, entitled Haridas Arrested, Lashed in 22 Markets, Haridas's Mystic Potency, Snake in the Cave, and Haridas and the Snake Charmer, are from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Kanda, Chapter 16, by Haridas Thakur. Srila Haridas Thakur was born in the village called Budana, and because of his presence, many people became purified and took up the chanting of the holy name. After some years, he left his village and traveled to a place near the river Ganga. He finally settled in the village of Pulia, near Shantipur. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was overjoyed to meet Srila Haridas Thakur in Navadvip and expressed his joy by roaring loudly. Haridas Thakur was similarly swept away by the waves of ecstatic Krishna Prema in the transcendental company of Advaita Acharya Prabhu. Srila Haridas Thakur passed his time wandering upon the banks of the Ganga, chanting the name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Haridas had absolutely no attraction for material enjoyment. The holy name of Lord Krishna continuously vibrated on his tongue, creating an extraordinary beauty. Never for a moment did he feel any apathy toward the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. He remained always absorbed, tasting the nectar of devotional service. He occasionally danced in ecstasy or cried in lamentation, while at other times he lay still in a state of unconsciousness. Sometimes he spoke in mysterious languages and later explained the meaning of his words. All the ecstatic symptoms of love of Krishna were manifest in him: profuse crying, horripilation, laughing, fainting, and perspiration. It was common to see Haridas Thakur dancing while he sang out the glories of Lord Krishna's name. People would gather around him just to see the unrestricted tears of Krishna prema that flowed profusely from his eyes, drenching his entire body. Even the strictest atheists marveled at his behavior. Horripilation swelled across his body like thousands of blooming flowers, and even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were amazed by his devotion. In the village of Pulia, even the ritualistic Brahmins were sincerely impressed, if not astonished, by Haridas Thakur's spiritual ecstasies. The people of the village held the saint in full respect, and having won their trust, he lived there quite peacefully. He bathed daily in the Ganga and roamed freely, chanting the Lord's name. The local Muslim magistrate authority, known as the Qazi, became envious of Haridas Thakur's popularity and reported to the Nawab, the ruling Muslim landholder. "This man is acting like a Hindu. Arrest him and punish him appropriately." The envious words of the sinful Qazi sparked an immediate response from the equally sinful Nawab, and Haridas Thakur was arrested and brought forth. Having received the mercy of Lord Krishna, Haridas had neither fear of the Muslim authorities nor even death itself. With the name of the Lord on his lips, Haridas appeared before the Nawab. When devotees and other pious persons in the locality of the Nawab's palace heard that the Saint Haridas was coming, they were extremely happy. But when they subsequently learned that he was coming as a captive of the Muslim ruler, they were horrified. Previously, many religious people had been terrorized and incarcerated by the Muslims. These prisoners were happy to learn that Haridas might be joining them. His presence in their miserable situation would certainly eradicate their suffering. These prisoners even requested the prison wardens to allow them unrestricted association with Srila Haridas. When Srila Thakur was brought into the prison, he looked compassionately at all the prisoners who immediately prostrated themselves at his lotus feet. His long, graceful arms, which extended to his knees, his lotus eyes, and his charming moon-like face enchanted everyone. They offered their most sincere respects to the saint, and love for Krishna stirred in their hearts. Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased with the tremendous devotion that had grown in their hearts, and blessed them. "Just remain as you are." However, the miserable prisoners could not grasp the depth of that blessing, and they felt quite dejected. Haridas could see their misunderstanding and compassionately explained himself. "My blessing to you is that you will remain as you are, but please do not feel dejected. I could never wish you any misfortune. I simply desire that the love you now feel for Krishna should always remain the same. From now on, chant Lord Krishna's name and constantly remember his pastimes, inspiring one another to retain your present devotion to Krishna. Violence and tyranny are absent in the spiritual world. So sincerely cry out for Krishna's help and constantly think of him. When you are released from this prison, neither return to your old materialistic ways, nor associate with degraded or sinful people. because one can never cultivate love for the Supreme Lord Krishna by living a mundane life. You should know that Krishna is unobtainable for the materialistic person. A materially engrossed mind is shaped by unwanted, mischievous desires. The attachment for wife, children, family, and other such illusions brings about destruction. If, by divine arrangement, any person reaches the platform of pure devotion, certain realizations dawn upon him, and he gradually becomes detached from material life, giving himself instead to the worship of the Supreme Lord. However, if that person returns to his materialistic life, his mind will certainly become contaminated by capricious, mischievous desires. I certainly do not want you to remain prisoners forever, but I do pray that you develop a distaste for material pleasures. Please chant the holy name of the Lord. My blessing was meant to free you from this present material condition and ensure that you remain happy in love for Krishna. I look upon everyone equally and wish the best for all living entities. I pray that you may develop unflinching devotion for Krishna. Do not be sad. You will be freed within 2 or 3 days. You may believe me. Once you leave this prison, you may live in the forest or you may live in your home, but always think of Krishna and try to cultivate spiritual life. Having showered his unrestricted mercy upon the prisoners, Haridas went before the Nawab. By his purity, Srila Haridas Thakur radiated great effulgence, which the Nawab could not fail to notice. Spontaneously he rose respectfully when Haridas entered and offered the saint a seat. Although he himself had become quite confused, the Nawab asked Haridas, "What sort of mentality has overcome you? Knowing that you have had the good fortune to become a Muslim, why do you behave like a Hindu? We do not even accept rice touched by a Hindu, yet you ignore your high birth and become a low-caste Hindu? To discard your own race, land, and religion for another is perverted. How do you expect to attain the liberated platform if you behave like this? I have decided to punish you according to the mandates of the Quran, so that you will be freed from your sins." Srila Haridas Thakur patiently listened to the threats and accusations of the Nawab, recognizing his words as the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord. Without any apprehension, Haridas simply smiled at the Nawab and spoke in a sweet, soothing voice. "My dear sir, there is only one God for all living entities. The difference between the Muslim God and the Hindu God is in name only. According to knowledgeable Hindus and Muslims, and according to every scripture, be it the Quran or the Purana, God is one. He is non-dual, eternal, transcendental, absolute truth, infallible, perfectly complete, and in that capacity, he resides in everyone's heart. The omnipotent Lord is the supreme controller of everything. The living entity is moved by the desire of the Supreme Lord, and the living entity acts and works only according to the Lord's design. The Supreme Lord's transcendental names, activities, qualities, associates, and abode are glorified variously in different religions. Nevertheless, irrespective of the manner in which he is worshipped, the Lord accepts everyone's individual mood of surrender toward him. However, if one living entity feels hatred or envy toward another, this is ultimately a reflection of his relationship with the Supreme Lord, and the Lord never tolerates one living entity's transgressions against another. A wrongdoer is surely punished. Whatever you see of my activities and me are manifestations of the Lord who guides me from within. A person may be born in the family of Brahmins, but if he becomes a Muslim, what should the Hindus do with such a person? Should he be punished? Is he not only acting in accordance with the inner prompting of the Lord for the fulfillment of his personal desires? And will he not eventually receive his results accordingly? My dear respected sir, please consider these points seriously. And if you still find me guilty, then punish me. The Muslim courtiers were sincerely moved by the purity of Haridas's wisdom and presence. However, his wisdom could not penetrate the envious and sinful heart of the Qazi, who turned to the Nawab and instructed, "You must punish this man. He is evil and mischievous. Others will fall under his influence and become equally sinful. He will disgrace our Muslim religion and community. Therefore, he must be appropriately punished. However, if he wants to be excused, then let him speak from his own scripture." The Nawab tried again. "My dear friend, just speak the repentance from your own scripture and accept the true path. Then you will have nothing to fear. Otherwise, the Qazi, who is present, will force me to punish you. They will revile and insult you. Why should you let this happen?" Haridas replied, "Whatever the Supreme Lord desires is destined to happen. No one can check it. Each one of us suffers according to the degree of his previous offenses. All is done by the Lord. Even if my body is cut into pieces and I lose my life, I will never give up chanting the Lord's holy name." The Nawab heard the fearless reply of Haridas and turned to the Qazi. "Now what is your decision about him?" "Lash him in 22 marketplaces until he dies," replied the envious Qazi. "There is no other judgment I find appropriate. If he lives, despite the punishment, then I will conclude that our big scholar has spoken the truth." The sentries were called in, and orders boomed out. "Lash him until he breathes his last breath. The sin a Muslim incurs by becoming a Hindu can only be punished by death." The Qazi's envious designs had fructified in the heart of the Nawab, and Haridas was dragged away by the sentries. From one marketplace to another, they beat him mercilessly, their black hearts consumed by hate for the pure devotee of the Lord. Nonetheless, Haridas was a pure soul, completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So he faithfully chanted Lord Krishna's holy name. So absorbed was he in fervent chanting that he did not feel any pain. The good-natured, pious people could not bear to see the torture inflicted on such an innocent person. Some begged the sentries to stop, while others predicted, "If they continue to torture this good man, the entire kingdom will be ruined." Many of them cursed the king to die, while some tried to stop the sentries physically. One person threw himself at the feet of the sentries and pleaded, "I will give you any reward you like if you stop this merciless beating." However, none of these protests evoked the slightest mercy from the sentries, who continued to drag Haridas Thakur from one marketplace to another, lashing him relentlessly. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Haridas felt no pain in his body. Just like Prahlad in the Srimad Bhagavatam, who was tortured by demons, Haridas never suffered at all. Not only was Haridas freed from his pain, whosoever remembers this story of Srila Haridas will also be saved from the miseries of life. Throughout his ordeal, Haridas's one emotion was pity for the centuries. O Lord Krishna, please be merciful upon these poor souls, so that they may not be punished because of me. Nothing could stop the insensitive centuries who were determined to see their assignment through to its deathly end. Yet, for all their beating, Haridas showed no signs of distress, as he was absorbed in remembering the holy name of Lord Krishna. At last, the guards had to stop, in amazement. How can a human being survive such a brutal beating? Any ordinary man would have died after the beating we gave him in the first 2 or 3 marketplaces. We have lashed him continuously through 22 markets, and still he shows no sign of either pain or death. Occasionally he looks up to smile at us. They concluded that he must surely be a saintly person. "O Haridas," they pleaded, "on account of you we shall certainly be punished. When the Qazi sees that despite our beating, you are still alive, he shall certainly kill us instead." Haridas replied, "If my survival brings such terrible misfortune to you, then I shall definitely give up my body. Just see how I die." Srila Das Thakur immediately fell into a trance. A pure devotee of the Supreme Lord possesses all mystic power. So without any hesitation, Srila Haridas fell lifeless, without a trace of breath. The Muslim centuries were astonished, but gladly brought the body of Srila Haridas to the Nawab. When the Nawab ordered the centuries to bury him, the Qazi protested. "No, if he is buried, he will be saved and ultimately gain entrance into heaven. Although he had achieved high birth as a Muslim, he has behaved like a low Hindu. Therefore, it is proper for him to be thrown into the Ganga to suffer eternally like the other lost Hindus. If he were buried, he would become elevated and freed from his sins." On the Qazi's orders, the centuries picked up the body of Haridas Thakur and carried him to the Ganga. Haridas remained in his deathly trance, meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spirit of Lord Krishna then descended into the body of Srila Thakur, and he became so heavy that it was impossible to move him. The strongest centuries came forward to push him into the water, but he remained in deep trance and could not be moved. Haridas had already drowned in the ocean of love for Lord Krishna, and he had no perception of the world around him. He knew not if he were still embodied, or wandering somewhere in the universe, or deep in the water of the Ganga. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur had the spiritual ability to constantly remember the Supreme Lord. Such an extraordinary capability was not surprising, for Haridas's heart was the permanent residence of Lord Gaurachandra. This entire episode with Srila Haridas Thakur is a replication of the heroic activities of Sri Hanuman in Sri Lanka. Indrajit, Ravana's son, had sent the Brahmastra, a weapon given to him by Lord Brahma, to capture Hanuman. Hanuman could have easily escaped it, but to show respect for the potency of Lord Brahma, Hanuman allowed himself to be bound by the Brahmastra. Similarly, Haridas Thakur could have escaped this punishment of the Muslims, but by allowing them to torture him, he taught the world a lesson. Despite the extreme miseries of life, one must never stop chanting the name of Krishna. The Supreme Lord Krishna, Govinda, directly protected Haridas Thakur. Therefore, who could harm him? If one simply remembers the name of Haridas, not to mention his terrible ordeal at the hands of the Muslims, one becomes free from one's own pain and misery. Most certainly, Srila Haridas Thakur was one of the closest, most important associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Chandra. Haridas floated downstream on the currents of the Ganga, and after some time he became conscious by the Lord's desire. Fully awakened and overwhelmed with ecstasy, he climbed onto the banks of the Ganga and proceeded toward Pulia, loudly chanting the name of Krishna as he walked. When the Muslims saw Srila Haridas, they were convinced that he possessed extraordinary mystic powers. Pure, happy feelings replaced the envy and hate in their hearts. They offered him obeisances, worshipping him as a very saintly person. By this worship, the Muslims became free from material entanglement. Later, in the presence of the Nawab, Haridas smiled compassionately at the Muslim ruler, who stood remorsefully with folded hands, feeling great awe and reverence. In a humble and meek voice, the Nawab said, "I can now understand that you are truly a saintly person. You have realized the absolute truth, and you have seen the one Supreme Lord everywhere and in everyone. You are a perfected soul and have actually attained absolute knowledge and liberation, of which the mystic yogis and philosophers falsely and proudly boast. I have come just to see you, simply to beg forgiveness. Kindly forgive me for the offenses I committed against you. Since you see everyone equally, you have neither friends nor enemies. There is no one in the entire world that can actually grasp your extraordinary position. You are a free man in every respect. You may stay in a lonely hut or in a cave on the banks of the river Ganga, or wherever you wish. From now on, you may stay anywhere and do whatever you please. However, please be merciful upon those of us who have committed this great offense against you." Everyone, whether elevated or wretched, automatically forgets about mundane life when he sees the lotus feet of Srila Haridas Thakur. The Muslims had been angry enough to kill him, yet they were transformed and they worshipped his feet, accepting him as a holy man. After forgiving and blessing them, Haridas went to Pulia. With the holy name resounding from his lips, he reached an assembly of Brahmins near Pulia. The Brahmins were overjoyed by his arrival and joined him in a roaring kirtan. As he danced in their midst, he felt ecstatic joy sweeping through his body. Crying, shivering, laughing, swooning, horripilation, and roaring loudly, he fell to the ground, totally immersed in love of Krishna. The Brahmins could not contain their unbounded joy. After some time, Srila Haridas calmed himself and spoke to the Brahmins, who sat around him. My dear Brahmin friends, do not feel sad because of what happened to me. This punishment was certainly due me. I stood in the court and listened to the Muslims blaspheme my Lord. For this, the Lord has punished me suitably. I am actually very happy because my punishment should have been much more severe. The Lord has let me off very lightly. One goes to hell if he hears blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My sinful ears were filled with such blasphemy, and the Lord has given me proper punishment so that I may never commit this offense again. Srila Haridas passed his time relishing the nectar of the holy name and giving his enlightening association to the Brahmins. Those Muslims who had tortured Das Thakur and their families were all eventually destroyed. Haridas left that village and moved into a cave on the banks of the river Ganga, where he maintained himself on the sweetness of the holy name and the memory of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Daily, he chanted a minimum of 300,000 names of Krishna. By the influence of the transcendental sound of the holy name and the holy presence of Srila Haridas Thakur, that cave was transformed into a Vaikuntha planet of the spiritual sky. In Haridas's cave lived a large and poisonous snake that emitted such strong vapors that not a soul could remain in the cave for more than a moment. People from the village came every day to visit Haridas, but they could not stay long enough to speak with him. Although the visitors were all driven away by the poisonous air, Haridas was completely oblivious to the presence of the snake. The Brahmins consulted one another about the foul air in the cave and discussed the matter with some Ayurvedic physicians in Pulia. After some research, they determined that a poisonous snake had indeed built its home within Haridas's cave. The physicians felt strongly that Haridas should vacate his cave, for living with such a snake was improper. They joined the Brahmins and approached Haridas to explain the situation. On account of the vapors from the poisonous snake living within your cave, no one can remain here, they explained. You should also vacate this place and find a more suitable cave to live in. Haridas replied, I have been living in this cave for a long time, and I have never been inconvenienced by the vapors you speak of. However, if none of you can remain within the cave, and it causes you such distress, then I shall leave here tomorrow. If it is true that a snake lives here, and if it does not leave by tomorrow, then I shall certainly go. I can assure you that one of us will leave this cave by tomorrow. Please, do not worry about this problem any longer. I am concerned that all of you not waste time in futile, mundane talks. Every moment should be utilized in discussing topics of Krishna. In the course of this discussion, a miracle occurred. Evening had gradually descended around Haridas and the Brahmins when the snake slithered out of its hole. Its huge, frightening body, crossed with effulgent red, yellow, and blue stripes, and crowned with a brilliant gem, slid quietly past the Brahmins and left that cave forever. Its appearance was both awesome and attractive, and as it slithered past, the Brahmins remembered Krishna as their only shelter. After the snake left, the burning sensation from the poisonous air also vanished, and all the Brahmins were satisfied. Their faith in the extraordinary spiritual potency of Haridas Thakur swelled, for they understood that the snake had left because of Haridas's assurance to the visitors. Simply the sight of Haridas dissipates one's innate nescience and material entanglements. Out of his love for Haridas, the Supreme Lord never minimizes or neglects Haridas's words. Another similar incident is related to a snake charmer. One day, in the courtyard of a rich man's house, this snake charmer was performing a snake dance. He was chanting a special mantra, accompanied by musicians, playing the mridanga and mandira. Haridas was passing by and stood to one side, watching the snake dance. Although the snake charmer was an ordinary human being, by the influence of his mantra, he could dance as though the spirit of the king of the snakes, Ananta Sesha, possessed him. With an enchanting melody, he sang about the pastimes of Lord Krishna in the lake called Kaliya Daha, where the Lord had vanquished an evil serpent called Kaliya. Haridas listened intently to the pastime of his beloved Lord Krishna, and suddenly, moved by ecstasy, he fell unconscious to the ground. When he regained consciousness, he jumped to his feet and roared like a lion, dancing in ecstasy as he babbled with joy. The snake charmer was impressed by this manifestation of ecstatic symptoms in Haridas's body and stood respectfully to the side. As the various symptoms of horripilation, crying and shivering, traversed Haridas's body, he rolled in the dust, crying in love for Krishna. He remembered how his beloved Lord had mercifully saved the snake Kaliya, and as he floated in ecstatic trance, the people around him obliged by singing songs about the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. The snake charmer simply stood to the side, overcome by awe and reverence for Haridas. When his ecstasy subsided, Haridas left, and the snake charmer resumed his performance. Everyone who witnessed the ecstasy of Haridas felt spiritually exhilarated, and they smeared their bodies with the dust from his feet. However, one cunning and deceitful Brahmin in the crowd decided to cheat the people. "I will also dance here," he told himself. "I can see that the people are not very intelligent. They are offering so much respect to this low-born Haridas, just because he dances and cries. If I, a Brahmin, also dance and cry, they will certainly worship me as well." The Brahmin threw himself on the ground and feigned unconsciousness, as though he had fallen into a trance. However, as soon as he touched the ground, the dancing snake charmer became furious, picked up a stick, and began beating that Brahmin relentlessly. He struck him repeatedly on every part of his body until the Brahmin, howling in agony, got up and ran away just to save his life. The snake charmer then resumed his dance while the entire crowd stood dumbfounded. At last, a man with folded hands humbly requested the snake charmer to explain why he had stood respectfully to the side while Haridas danced, yet he had beaten the Brahmin for what seemed to be the same activity. The spirit of Anantasesha, who dwelt within that snake charmer, then spoke in glorification of Haridas Thakur. The subject matter of your inquiry is very confidential. Although such a topic is rarely discussed because of its highly esoteric nature, I shall nevertheless answer your question. When Haridas Thakur was dancing in ecstatic trance, each one of us felt our respect and affection for him spontaneously increase. However, the deceitful Brahmin was simply imitating Haridas in order to get some cheap adoration from the crowd, not out of love for Krishna, but out of enviousness toward a pure devotee. The Brahmin threw himself on the ground and feigned ecstasy. Furthermore, he interrupted my dancing. Since he disturbed me and tried to imitate a pure devotee, I punished him severely. This arrogant and deceitful Brahmin has no love for Krishna. To receive the shelter of devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, one has to become pure, free from deceit. By seeing Srila Haridas dance, one becomes liberated from material bondage. Even the Supreme Lord Krishna himself dances when he sees Haridas Thakur dance. The entire universe becomes cleansed of all sinful reactions just by seeing Srila Haridas dance. He is truly worthy of his name, Haridas Thakur, the servant of the Supreme Lord, Hari, Krishna, who shines eternally like the full moon in the heart of his devotee. Haridas is affectionate and compassionate toward all living entities, and he descends as the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord in each of the Lord's incarnations. He is free from any fault or offense toward the Supreme Lord or his devotees. Even in his dreams, he never commits an offense. A moment's association with Haridas can purify any living entity and assure him the eternal shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva constantly desire his association. Haridas appeared in the family of a lowly Muslim on the order of the Supreme Lord, just to teach human society that material designations like caste, creed, birth status, and family position are all illusory, and pursuing them is futile. If a pure devotee of the Lord is born in a low-class family, he is no less worthy of worship. This is the injunction of the scriptures. On the other hand, if someone is born in a sophisticated family, but does not worship the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, then his high birth is useless, for he lives just like a resident of hell. Just to prove the truth of these scriptures, Srila Haridas took birth in a low-caste family. Prahlad Maharaj, one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, had previously appeared in a family of demons. And Hanuman, the greatest devotee of Lord Ramachandra, took birth in monkey species. The demigods desire the touch of the pure and transcendental form of Srila Haridas Thakur, and Ganga Mata also prays that her water will be sanctified by his presence. However, one need not touch Srila Das Thakur. Simply by seeing him, one is automatically free from the eternal cycle of birth and death. Furthermore, one who sees a devotee who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of Srila Haridas Thakur is also granted freedom from material bondage. Neither 1,000 mouths nor 1,000 ears would be sufficient to describe and hear the wonderful qualities of Srila Haridas. You are a fortunate soul, for your inquiry has given me an opportunity to glorify the pure devotee, and has given you the opportunity to hear the transcendental topic. From the moment a person speaks the name of Srila Haridas Thakur, his ascension to the supreme abode of Lord Krishna is guaranteed. Nagaraj, the snake charmer, then fell silent. The assembled Brahmins and pious gentlemen felt thoroughly satisfied by his glorification of Srila Haridas. Of course, Anantasesha is a pure Vaishnava devotee of the Supreme Lord, and is always engaged in glorifying the Lord and his devotees. This was not his first occasion to describe the outstanding qualities of Haridas. The assembly accepted the Nagaraja's appraisal of Haridas, and the love each person felt for Haridas increased. Anyone who listens with faith and devotion to these narrations will find eternal shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Sri Gaurachandra. Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu are my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. The passing away of Srila Haridas Thakur is narrated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, Chapter 11, by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Haridas Thakur and his master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who danced with the body of Haridas Thakur on his lap. I am writing this narration of the pastimes and attributes of the Lord by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. I do not know how to write properly, but I am purifying myself by writing this description. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus resided at Jagannath Puri with his personal devotees and enjoyed the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In the daytime, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in dancing and chanting and in seeing the temple of Lord Jagannath. At night, in the company of his most confidential devotees, such as Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar Goswami, he tasted the nectar of the transcendental mellows of Lord Sri Krishna's pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happily passed his days in this way at Nilachala, Jagannath Puri. Feeling separation from Krishna, he exhibited many transcendental symptoms all over his body. Day after day, the symptoms increased, and at night they increased even more. All these symptoms, such as transcendental anxiety, agitation, and talking like a madman, were present just as they are described in the Shastras. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy, the chief assistants in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, remained with him both day and night. One day, Govinda, the personal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went in great jubilation to deliver the remnants of Lord Jagannath's food to Haridas Thakur. When Govinda came to see Haridas, he saw that Haridas Thakur was lying on his back and chanting his rounds very slowly. "Please rise and take your Mahaprasad," Govinda said. Haridas Thakur replied,
Today I shall observe fasting. I have not finished chanting my regular number of rounds. How then can I eat? But you have brought Mahaprasadam, and how can I neglect this?
Saying this, he offered prayers to the Mahaprasad, took a little portion, and ate it.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Mahaprasadam is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, instead of eating Mahaprasadam, one should honor it. It is said here, Karila Vandana, he offered prayers. When taking Mahaprasadam, one should not consider the food ordinary preparations. Prasad means favor. One should consider Mahaprasadam a favor of Krishna. As stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Krishna Bada Doyamoy Koribara Jivajai Swaprasad Anadilo Bai. Krishna is very kind. In this material world, we are all very much attached to tasting various types of food. Therefore, Krishna eats many nice varieties of food and offers the food back to the devotees, so that not only are one's demands for various tastes satisfied, but by eating prasadam, one makes advancement in spiritual life. Therefore, we should never consider ordinary food on an equal level with Mahaprasadam.
The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Haridas's place and inquired from him.
Haridas, are you well?
Haridas offered his obeisances to the Lord and replied,
My body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired from Haridas,
Can you ascertain what your disease is?
My disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If one cannot complete the fixed number of rounds he is assigned, he should be considered to be in a diseased condition of spiritual life. Srila Haridas Thakur is called Namacharya. Of course, we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur, but everyone must chant a prescribed number of rounds. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we have fixed 16 rounds as the minimum so that Westerners will not feel burdened. These 16 rounds must be chanted, and chanted loudly, so that one can hear himself and others.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued,
Now that you have become old, you may reduce the number of rounds you chant daily. You are already liberated, and therefore you need not follow the regulative principles very strictly.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one has come to the platform of spontaneous love of God, he must follow the regulative principles. Thakur Haridas was a living example of how to follow the regulative principles. Similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami was also such a living example. In the Sad Goswami Astaka, it is stated, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kailava Sani Krito. The Goswamis, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, strictly followed all the regulative principles. The first regulative principle is that one must chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra loudly enough so that he can hear himself, and one must vow to chant a fixed number of rounds. Not only was Raghunath Das Goswami chanting a fixed number of rounds, but he had also taken a vow to bow down many times and offer obeisances to the Lord.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu affectionately said,
Your role in this incarnation is to deliver the people in general. You have sufficiently preached the glories of the holy name in this world.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Haridas Thakur is known as Namacharya because it is he who preached the glories of chanting Harinam, the holy name of God. By using the words Tomara Avatar, your incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that Haridas Thakur is the incarnation of Lord Brahma. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that advanced devotees help the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his mission, and that such devotees or personal associates incarnate by the will of the Lord. The Supreme Lord incarnates by his own will, and by his will, competent devotees also incarnate to help him in his mission. Haridas Thakur is thus the incarnation of Lord Brahma, and other devotees are likewise incarnations who help in the prosecution of the Lord's mission.
The Lord concluded,
Now, therefore, please reduce the fixed number of times you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Kindly hear my real plea. I was born in an inferior family, and my body is most abominable. I always engage in low work. Therefore, I am the lowest, most condemned of men. I am unseeable and untouchable, but you have accepted me as your servant. This means that you have delivered me from a hellish condition and raised me to the Vaikuntha platform. My dear Lord, you are the fully independent personality of Godhead. You act by your own free will. You cause the whole world to dance and act as you like. My dear Lord, by your mercy you have made me dance in many ways. For example, I was offered the Shraddha Patra, which should have been offered to first-class Brahmins. I ate from it, though I was born in a family of meat-eaters. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his Anubhasya, quotes from the Vishnu Smriti in reference to the Shraddha Patra. Brahmana prasadyete katita pankti dushaka etan vivaljaya dyatnat shraddha karmani pandita. According to this verse, if one is born in a Brahmin family but does not behave according to Brahminical standards, he should not be offered the Shraddha Patra, which is prasadam offered to the forefathers. Advaita Acharya offered the Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur, not to a Brahmin who had been born in a Brahmin family. Although Haridas Thakur was born in the family of meat-eaters, because he was an advanced devotee, he was shown more respect than a first-class Brahmin. I have had one desire for a very long time. I think that quite soon, my Lord, you will bring to a close your pastimes within this material world. I wish that you not show me this closing chapter of your pastimes. Before that time comes, kindly let my body fall down in your presence. I wish to catch your lotus feet upon my heart and see your moon-like face. With my tongue I shall chant your holy name, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. That is my desire. Kindly let me give up my body in this way. O most merciful Lord, if by your mercy it is possible, kindly grant my desire. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires.
My dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. It is not fitting for you to go away and leave me behind.
Catching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur said,
My dear Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. My Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless, I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectation.
Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave, but it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridas Thakur. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. The next morning, after visiting the Jagannath temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all his devotees, went hastily to see Haridas Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the devotees came before Haridas Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired,
My dear Haridas, what is the news?
My Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me.
Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard. Vakreshwar Pandit was the chief dancer. Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakur and began congregational chanting. In front of all the great devotees, like Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Haridas Thakur. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. Hearing the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his 2 eyes, like 2 bumblebees, on the lotus face of the Lord. He held the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his heart, and then took the dust of the feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. He began to chant the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again. As he drank the sweetness of the face of the Lord, tears constantly glided down from his eyes. While chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakur by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogi's, everyone remembered the passing away of Bhishma. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names of Hari and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakur and placed it on his lap. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstatic love. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, all the devotees were helpless, and in ecstatic love they also began to dance and chant congregationally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced for some time, and then Swarup Damodar Goswami informed him of other rituals for the body of Haridas Thakur. The body of Haridas Thakur was then raised onto a carrier that resembled an airship and taken to the sea, accompanied by congregational chanting. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in front of the procession, and Vakreshwar Pandit, along with the other devotees, chanted and danced behind him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakur in the sea, and then declared,
From this day on, this sea has become a great pilgrimage site.
Everyone drank the water that had touched the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, and then smeared remnants of Lord Jagannath's sandalwood pulp over the body of Haridas Thakur. After a hole was dug in the sand, the body of Haridas Thakur was placed into it. Remnants from Lord Jagannath, such as his silken ropes, sandalwood pulp, food and cloth, were placed on the body. All around the body, the devotees performed congregational chanting, and Vikreshwar Pandit danced in jubilation. With his transcendental hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand. The devotees covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand, and then constructed a platform upon the site. The platform was protected all around by fencing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted all around the platform, and as the holy name of Hari roared tumultuously, the whole universe became filled with a vibration. After Sankirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the sea with his devotees, swimming and playing in the water with great jubilation. After circumambulating the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Simhadwar gate of the Jagannath temple. The whole city chanted in congregation, and the tumultuous sound vibrated all over the city. Approaching the Simhadwar gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread his cloth and began to beg prasadam from all the shopkeepers there.
I am begging prasadam for a festival honoring the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Please give me alms.
Hearing this, all the shopkeepers immediately came forward with big baskets of prasadam, which they jubilantly delivered to Lord Chaitanya. However, Swarup Damodar stopped them, and the shopkeepers returned to their shops and sat down with their baskets. Swarup Damodar sent Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his residence and kept with him 4 Vaishnavas and 4 servant carriers. Swarup Damodar said to all the shopkeepers, "Deliver to me 4 palmfuls of prasadam from each and every item." In this way, varieties of prasadam were collected, then packed up in different loads and carried on the heads of the 4 servants. Not only did Swarup Damodar Goswami bring prasadam, but Vaninath Patanyayaka and Kasi Mishra also sent large quantities. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made all the devotees sit in rows and personally began to distribute the prasadam, assisted by 4 other men. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not accustomed to taking prasadam in small quantities. He therefore put on each plate what at least 5 men could eat. Swarup Damodar Goswami requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Please sit down and watch. With these men to help me, I shall distribute the prasadam." The 4 men, Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda, Kashishvar, and Shankara, distributed the prasadam continuously. All the devotees who sat down would not eat the prasadam as long as the Lord had not eaten. On that day, however, Kasi Mishra had extended an invitation to the Lord. Therefore, Kasi Mishra personally went there and delivered prasadam to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great attention and made him eat. With Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and accepted the prasadam. When he began to eat, so did all the Vaishnavas. Everyone was filled up to the neck because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept telling the distributors,
Give them more! Give them more!
After all the devotees finished accepting prasadam and had washed their hands and mouths, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decorated each of them with a flower garland and sandalwood pulp. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered a benediction to all the devotees, which all the devotees heard with great satisfaction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction:
Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridas Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridas Thakur, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasadam will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such wonderful power in seeing Haridas Thakur. Being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridas Thakur. Being independent in his desires, he has now broken that association. When Haridas Thakur wanted to leave this material world, it was not within my power to detain him. Simply by his will, Haridas Thakur could give up his life and go away, exactly like Bhishma, who previously died simply by his own desire, as we have heard from Shastra. Haridas Thakur was the crown jewel on the head of this world. Without him, this world is now bereft of its valuable jewel. Everyone chant, "All glories to Haridas Thakur," and chant the holy name of Hari.
Saying this, he personally began to dance. Everyone began to chant, "All glories to Haridas Thakur," who revealed the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thereafter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees, and he himself, with mixed feelings of happiness and distress, took rest. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing away of Haridas Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. At Purushottama Kshetra, or Jagannath Puri, there is a temple of Tota Gopinath. If one goes from there to the sea, he can discover the tomb of Haridas Thakur still existing. Every year on the date of Ananta Chaturdasi, there is a grand festival to commemorate the passing away of Haridas Thakur. At the same place, 3 deities of Nityananda, Krishna Chaitanya, and Advaita Prabhu were established about 100 years ago. A gentleman named Bhamaravara from Kendrapad in the province of Orissa contributed funds to establish these deities in the temple. The management of the temple was under the Tota Gopinath Goswamis. The temple was later sold to someone else, and this party is now maintaining the Seva Puja. Near this temple and the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur constructed a small house called Bhakti Kuti. In the Bengali year 1329, Purushottama Math, a branch of the Gaudiya Math, was established there. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, it is stated, Srinivas Thakur quickly ran to the seashore. When he saw the tomb of Haridas Thakur, he immediately fell down, offering prayers, and almost fainted. The devotees present there pacified him with very sweet and affectionate words, and Srinivas again offered his obeisances to the tomb of Haridas. Hearing of the separation that Srinivas expressed in his lamentation at the tomb of Haridas Thakur makes one's heart melt.
From the incident of Haridas Thakur's passing away, and the great care Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took in commemorating it, one can understand just how affectionate he is toward his devotees. Although he is the topmost of all sannyasis, he fully satisfied the desire of Haridas Thakur. When Haridas Thakur was at the last stage of his life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his company and allowed him to touch him. Thereafter, he took the body of Haridas Thakur on his lap and personally danced with it. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and personally begged alms from the shopkeepers. Then he conducted a great festival to celebrate the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was not only the topmost devotee of the Lord, but also a great and learned scholar. It was his great fortune that he passed away before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Haridas Thakur is mentioned here as the most learned scholar, Parama Vidvan. Actually, the most important science is to know the science of getting out of the clutches of material existence. Anyone who knows this science must be considered a greatly learned person. Anyone who knows the temporary situation of this material world and is expert in achieving a permanent situation in the spiritual world, who knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the jurisdiction of our experimental knowledge, is understood to be the most learned scholar. Haridas Thakur knew this science perfectly. Therefore, he is described in this connection as Parama Vidvan. He personally preached the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is approved by the revealed scripture, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:5-24. Iti pumsarpita Vishnu bhaktis chen navalakshana kriyeta Bhagavat yadha tanmanye ditam uttamam. There are 9 different processes of devotional service to Krishna, the most important being Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Haridas Thakur knew this science very well, and he can therefore be called, technically, Sarva Shastraditi. Anyone who has learned the essence of all Vedic scriptures is to be known as a first-class educated person, with full knowledge of all Shastra.
The life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are exactly like an ocean of nectar, one drop of which can please the mind and ear. Anyone who desires to cross over the ocean of nescience, please hear with great faith the life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.